What's happening, everybody? Trey here, joined again by my dad Sean, and today on Reactions to the Classics, we're going to take a look at Led Zeppelin's classic double album, Physical Graffiti. We're going through their entire discography up to album number 6 here. And if this is your first time joining us, y'all, we appreciate you stopping by the channel. Here at Reactions to the Classics, we take a look back at some of the most classic albums of all time, do a detailed track-by-track review of them, and usually, just like today, this is the first time we've heard the record. So if that sounds like something interesting to you, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And if you'd like to link up with us more, we have a great Facebook group as well as our Patreon link down below. But all that to say, let's just dive into the quick fact.
Yeah, Trey, you already mentioned their 6th studio album released in February 1975. It was actually delayed 3 months because they're trying to get the cover art correct. Back in those days, it mattered. We didn't have Spotify or Apple Music. You actually held the album.
Led Zeppelin III was kind of like that too.
Exactly, brother. It had to meet those specifications. It was the first album released through Swan Records, which was Zepp's own record label, through their old record label, Atlantic. It's number 73 on the Rolling Stones top 500 albums of all time, another heavy hitter from Zepp. It was commercially and critically successful, went to number 1 in the UK and the US, and is considered by many critics as their best album, although that's something that we can argue about at a later time. This is a double album. What they did is they wrote and recorded 8 new songs. It was a little over 52 minutes, so they had to either cut or add. So they decided to go ahead and go all in. Double album, they added some unreleased stuff from Zepp 3, Zepp 4, and Houses of the Holies. Blended it all together. That gives this album a unique mixture of styles, so I really like that about it. It's got progressive rock, rock and roll, folk, it's got hard rock, even a tinge of country. Other
than the jam Boogie with Stu, which features former Rolling Stones member Ian Stuart, the band provided all instrumentation and vocals themselves, and like a lot of Zepp albums, this thing was produced by Jimmy Page. The first attempt to record songs for Physical Graffiti took place in November of '73 at Headley Grange in England, where they previously recorded their untitled 4th album. However, these sessions came to a halt, and the press reported that Jones was ill and unable to record, but he actually became disillusioned with the group, fed up with touring, and was considering quitting. He was asked to reconsider, take off the rest of the year, and then take a stab at it, and once '74 started.
Yeah, and they reconvened in February of '74, so they got about 3 months off, recorded those 8 new tracks. Bonham became a driving force for the first time, a true driving force on arrangements, on how to do things, and that led to him getting songwriting credit on several of these songs. Well, first up on side 1, we have Custard Pie. Great guitar solo played to a synthesizer here by Page. You had Jones playing a clavinet, they overdubbed that. You have Plant playing the harmonica, and then the drumming from Bonham right out of the chute is just tremendous.
Yeah, and the lyrics make a bunch of double entendre, sexual double entendre. Yeah. I enjoyed the fact that we brought the harmonica in. You could already tell with this first song that we were gonna get a wide array of instrumentation, some different styles up in here. I like the riff and solo, as you mentioned. It just prepared us for the journey that we had ahead. And then that takes us to the next track, the track that I think is actually stronger than this one, the Rover. And this song was actually written all the way back in 1970. Yes. They worked on it at Bron-Yr-Aur when working for Led Zeppelin III. Kind of put it on the shelf, came back with a harder rock arrangement for the sessions of Houses of the Holy, and then we get it here finally on Physical.
It's a long road.
Physical Graffiti. I thought that, again, Bonham's fills after each verse were the standout for me. Lyrically, it was nice, just kind of a nice message. If we could just join hands, that's all it takes. Plant's passion really was prominent here.
I like it a lot more than Custard Pie. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think it really starts to get us warmed up into the next phase of this album, which brings us up to In My Time of Dying. It's 11 minutes, 4 seconds for the longest studio track by Zepp. It credits all 4 band members as the writers of this song. Page uses an open A chord tuning, and Jones plays a fretless bass. Bonham's drums were recorded with a distinctive reverb effect.
This is based off a song called Jesus Make Up My Dying Bed. It's a traditional gospel song. The lyrics appear all the way back in 1925 from a Louisiana street performers. One of Bonham's most consistent drumming performances, a great jam session with the instrumental here. This was one of my favorite tracks, and essentially he gets caught up in heaven at the end, meets Peter, meets Gabriel, and all the people he can still see down below. So a unique track.
It's a very unique track, very unique choice by them, but that's one thing about Zepp as they've grown through time. I mean, there's a lot of different subject matters that they pull from, and a lot of the older songs they pull from are interesting. It's not their normal stuff that they sing about. For me, it worked as well. You mentioned Bonham. I mean, when you're on an 11-plus minute track, the drummer better be on, and he is definitely on. So this thing's a musical journey, and I enjoyed it.
We start the second side with Houses of the Holy, which ironically enough wasn't included on the album Houses of the Holy, and I think it would have fit there because it has a party dance-like vibe to it.
And the squeak of Bonham's drum pedal can be heard throughout, so that was a unique thing. And basically, House of the Holy is just referring to the concert auditoriums and arenas that Zepp played in, like it almost took on a holy feel to it. So for me, yeah, this song worked. It's a nice rocker. It would have worked on the previous album, but I'm glad they put it here to start off side two. That brings us to Trampled Underfoot. It's kind of funk influence. It's actually taken off of a 1936 Robert Johnson song. Here's Robert again, Trey. Terraplane Blues. Terraplane is a car. It's released in the U.S. top 40 hit. In the vein of the Terraplane car, it uses car terms as metaphors for sexual stuff, pump your brakes, those sorts of things.
Yeah, and this developed from a jam session back in '72, and a lot of the work went into getting that semi-funk beat down. Jones worked that out on the clavinet and took inspiration from Stevie Wonder's famous track Superstition, and it was unique because this was Zepp like we've never heard them before.
Yeah, definitely.
With that funk, it definitely hit a better, higher note than their kind of funk-infused track on Houses of the Holy, the crunge. I think they hit a home run with this one. I enjoyed it. The unique clavinet with Page's awesome guitar solo just synergized very well together, and this was a one that really stood out, I think.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And then we close side two with the most famous track from this record, the only song I was familiar with coming into it, Cashmere. 8 minutes 37 seconds long, written by Page and Plant over a period of 3 years, and that iconic riff uses a non-standard guitar tuning influenced by Page's entrance in Arabic and Eastern music.
Yeah, and Plant felt that the drumming was an important component of the song and that Bonham did not overplay his part, and he sure didn't. Although named after Cashmere, none of the group members had visited the area. Instead, Plant was inspired during a drive through a desolate desert area of southern Morocco. All 4 members of Zepp have agreed that Cashmere is one of their best musical achievements. That first guitar riff, you just know it right away, and so I knew that. I really didn't know the whole song, though. That's weird. You hear that guitar riff everywhere.
Yeah, and I think this is, again, Bonham, I think, was the MVP of this record.
He was, and he even got a little bit of a writing credit on this as well.
Yeah, and just the power that just comes bursting in here. I was familiar with the track. I think it's great. Just them, as you mentioned, everybody just firing on all cylinders. It evokes an epic type of song. There's imagery in there that is great. Just, I'm a traveler, both time and space. Plant really just kind of puts you into the setting that he wants you to, and I really enjoyed it, but I actually enjoyed the next track more.
Well, we're getting to side 3. Now, let me tell you something. This side 3 is where I set up shop. This side 3 is tremendous. We started with In the Light. 8 minutes and 44 seconds, another epic adventure. Composed primarily by Jones on his synthesizer, though Plant and Page also received songwriting credits. The unique sound of the intro is created by Page using a violin bow on an acoustic guitar as a backdrop to Jones's opening synthesizer solo, and it was based on an earlier band composition titled In the Morning.
Members of the group said that this was one of their finest compositions that they ever did. The message, I think, is great. It talks about you need people to share the load with you. You need people whenever you're feeling down to essentially walk with you in the light or be a light to you.
This is my favorite song on this album. There's just something about it. It's an epic journey that takes you on this ride. It doesn't all sound the same, but it is just one of those songs that for one reason or another just sticks with you.
Yeah, and you again had a unique instrumentation here. We had a synthesizer, and I think that worked well with Plant's vocals that were echoed. It just all fit together into a nice harmony, and then right before we get into the second verse, we just get an explosion of just rock and roll guitar going loud, drums pounding. I just love this track.
A good variation of pacing throughout the song.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's interesting, we come down a little bit with a total instrumental acoustic number, Zepp's shortest song ever, Bron-Yr-Aur. and you know, we've mentioned Bron-Yr-Aur a ton throughout.
And we know how to say it now,
yeah.
guys, so that took a while.
Yeah, exactly. I thought this was a great acoustic number with just set up a very pretty tone, I think.
Yeah, I was down with it too. It's an interesting thing to throw in there, but it worked for me. It wasn't like a filler or anything.
No.
Just Page, man, he's tremendous. And that brings us to Down by the Seaside, which was originally an acoustic track written in 1970. They reworked it into an electric track for the fourth album. Didn't make that either. It was inspired by Neil Young, and once you know that and you listen to it, you can feel it in there, both of the vocal performance and the lyrics, which are partly about the environment and partly about people being self-centered, which I guess kind of goes together if they're destroying the environment.
Kind of thought of nostalgia as a theme of the track as well. That's what it kind of conjured up for me.
That's a good point.
I just thought it was a delightful track. Again, pretty instrumentation here. Again, it's nice to go through and hear these songs that aren't necessarily highly acclaimed or played on the classic rock radio, and then you just find gems in here. That's why I like going through albums and not just hearing just the most famous songs, because this was one of my 3 favorite tracks on the entire record.
I agree 100%. That's going to take us to the closeout song, 10 Years Gone.
Yeah, and this again was interesting topic-wise.
Oh, it's great topic-wise.
Because he comes across a girl that he used to really know and love 10 years ago, and now life's changed. It's kind of crazy, and it made me think. I mean, I'm still a young guy. I'm sure it made you really think.
What are you trying to say there? I'm not a young guy. It really did, and I mean, it's a true story. Plant wrote it about a girl that he was very serious with 10 years before, and she came to him and gave him the ultimatum. She said, "Robert, it's either your music or me," and he wasn't highly successful at the time. I don't know how long he had to ponder on that, but he said in an interview, he goes, "I think I made the right choice," and I think he did too, Robert, but it's an interesting song to write out. Takes us to side 4. We're going to kick it off with Night Flight, written by Jones, Page, and Plant. It was recorded in '71 for the 4th album. Jones actually plays the Hammond organ on this one, and Page plays the guitar through a Leslie speaker.
And it talks about a guy who is trying to avoid being drafted into the Vietnam War.
Yeah, Plant taking on a social topic.
So I thought this was good. Overall, I think side 4 was definitely the weakest on the entire record.
I agree with you on that.
But still a fine track, and then that takes us into the Wonton song, which developed from a jam session during rehearsals, and for the epic guitar solo, Page employed a backwards echo, where the echo was heard before the note, and also put his guitar through a Leslie speaker.
Yeah, and the song's lyrical content is very similar to Custard Pie. The word wonton can mean willful and deliberate, or it can also be sexually indiscriminate and lacking inhibition, which ties into the theme of this song, just like Custard Pie. It's about sex. It's fine with me. It's pretty forgettable.
I'd agree. Definitely a lower level track, though I did think it had some of the grooviest guitar work on the record. And then we get to Boogie with Stu, yet another musical style here. This is the one that Ian Stuart was on.
It was a jam session based around the Richie Valens song Oh My Head. It was recorded in '71 during the same session that produced Rock and Roll for the 4th album.
Yeah, and the Stu in the song just refers to Ian Stewart. Yeah. It felt like them trying to do some 50s rock and roll, which the song Rock and Roll from Led Zeppelin IV was like that too, so I wasn't surprised to hear that they were brought out from the same sessions. I dug this one. It was something different. Again, another different musical style. I liked it more than this next track, Black Country Woman, which was recorded in the Garden at Stargroves in '72 for Houses of the Holy, as part of the group's desire to work in off-the-wall locations outside of the traditional studio environment.
Yeah, and the track was almost abandoned because an airplane flies overhead. You can hear it. They talk about it in the track, which I thought was pretty cool to leave it in there. But they decided to leave it there. And the song's really about this girl tells him all these things, but now he looks and feels like a fool.
There was a savage line in there saying, "Hey, what's wrong with you? That's all right. I know your sister too." So
yeah, I thought that was so funny, man.
If you're gonna take, and lie to me, then whatever. I'm just gonna dump you. Move on to the sister.
Yeah, try to hit her right in the heart. Right?
So again, this was a little bit more forgettable for me, just as a whole. But it's still Zepp just going out there rocking. And then we close out the record with Sick Again.
Yeah, and Plant wrote this thing about some LA groupies, some underage girls, and when you listen to the lyrics, you can kind of catch that in there. He felt sorry for them, that their whole identity was just basically based on waiting around for these different groups to come into town and try to sleep with these guys.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was an interesting message to end the record off with, and especially Zepp biggest rock and rollers in the world at the time, the Plant taking on this topic that was obviously prevalent throughout 70s, 80s, probably even today.
Yeah, even today, I'm sure.
You know, about all these girls that just want a touch of fame with these rockers that, you know, they're just on to another town the next night.
Exactly.
So I thought it was probably the highlight of side 4 for me.
Agree.
And then that'll take us, I guess, to our favorite tracks.
Yeah, I'm going to go with In the Light, Down by the Seaside, and 10 Years Gone. That's side 3 for me, really works.
Yeah, I'm going to say Down by the Seaside. I'm going to say In My Time of Dying.
I'll add that one in there
I thought
as well.
was great. Shout out to Cashmere just for what it was musically.
True.
As well. And Trampled Underfoot. There was a lot of solid cuts on here, I thought, which is going to take us to our overall score of the record. I know this is a lot of people's favorite Zepp album, and I can see why. I think that it was interesting and unique in the fact that they brought so many different styles together from so many different recording processes.
Yeah, that's what makes it unique, in that they brought in material from the 3 previous albums, so you get this mixture.
So yeah, it's usually not something you're going to hear unless it's like a greatest hits or compilation. Yeah. This is a proper record of fully new material to the outside world. So I thought that was interesting. I still prefer Led Zepp 4, but this is definitely a fantastic double album, not filled with much filler, and which usually I think hinders some of the double albums. So I'm going to go an 8.75.
I'm going to be right there with you. We have not talked about that beforehand, but I'm going to be right there with an 8.75. I also prefer Led Zepp 4, but just by a hair. But this really showed a wide range of styles of Zepp, and they have really grown on me over time. I never really listened to much Zepp. And as the albums have progressed, I have become a bigger and bigger fan.
Let us know, y'all, what you think of Physical Graffiti down below. Your favorite track, where would you put it amongst Zepp's best albums? We only got 2 more studio albums left. We got Presence coming up. We'll be sure to hit that up very soon for y'all. Thanks as always, Dad, for the research.
Pleasure.
And if you enjoyed watching this video, y'all be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And until next time, thank you so much for watching. Happy listening, my friends, and we will see you next time.